What's up everybody, this is Age and we are back with another Guild Wars 2 video, the first of 2018. Hopefully you guys had a good holiday and a start to the year. Now the footage I'm using right now is me playing Daredevil. I don't have any recent Deadeye footage, but this is the subject of the video for today. I said in my last vlog that I'd be talking about the issues with Deadeye, and at least the ones I have, and some possible solutions. Now I've been thinking about this quite a bit over the past couple weeks, months, a little bit, and I feel like overall the cantrips and the traits are reasonably okay. Now there could be tweaks here and there, but for the most part they're pretty decent. I think the main issues when it comes to Deadeye stems from three main parts. The first is Deadeye's mark, how Malice works is the second, and obviously the third is rifle. Now let's start with the mark. Now Deadeye's mark is integral for any Deadeye due to damage, buffs on full stacks, combos with cantrips and Death's Judgment, all these things. Now the first problem I have with how Deadeye's mark works is the stolen items. Now stolen items are, when it comes to Deadeye, are only usable on marked targets, which is debatable, but they also disappear when your mark resets. Now both of these issues are issues for me due to less flexibility in how and when I want to use my stolen items. Now with steal, you lose your stolen items when you use them or when you steal again, and you can use these items on any target. Now I'm not sure why Arena decided to make Deadeye's mark stolen items work so differently. Now the only reason I could think of is the item reset is, at least for the item reset, is that you could potentially save 2 items and give yourself a burst of boons, mark and give yourself more boons, although I'm not sure how practical that is. Plus you could do that with Mercy Cantrip and with easy to kill mobs anyways. So yeah, in any case, I would like Steel's flexibility when it comes to using stolen items. Another issue with the mark is the cast time. Now for range it's not as big as a deal since you're likely to get the skill off. I mean, like 1500 range, if you're at 1500 range, 900, 1500 range, you're more likely to get it off. But when you're in melee, you have a harder time. You can get interrupted, you might have to dodge a crucial skill mid-cast, and as I said before, having Deadeye's mark up is integral for Deadeye itself due to the damage, boons, synergy with other cantrips, as I said before. It's hard to say what a solution for this is. Now, I want to say reduce the cast time a bit, but it's already at half a second, and that's fairly low. So, I also think the cast time shouldn't be instant. I know a lot of people said this should be instant, but having a 1500 range insta cast done into a bombardment of range burst damage is kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. It's debatable what should be done in terms of the cast time. Alright, let's talk about Malice. So, each Malice stack is 3% damage, and it takes about 10 to 20 seconds to get the full stacks, depending on how much you attack versus weight. And there's a 10 to 15 seconds window of opportunity for max damage uptime before you reset and have to regain stacks, aka regain your damage. Now, there's very little control of this damage modifier, which is the main problem I find with Malice. On Daredevil, there are flat damage modifiers based on, like, after you dodge, or if you don't have full endurance. Now, these are things you have better control over. In a player versus player scenario, control on your Malice stacks is literally trying to take advantage of when you're reaching full stacks, which, as I said, is a small window that you have to try to make use of. Plus the issues of constantly having fluctuating damage is not ideal, and as all Thief players know, that prolonged fights is not where thieves usually thrive the best, unless you're running an evasion build. Now a solution would be to have a flat damage increase when you mark someone, so that you do extra damage on anything, not just your mark target. Let's say you're 2v1, so you mark one target, but you can also do the same flat damage to the other target. Now, you would also have an extra damage modifier versus your mark target. So let's say again that 2v1 scenario, you mark one target, so you'll do, let's say, X amount of damage to that target, you'll do the X amount of damage to the other target, but you'll also do Y amount of damage to that first target that you marked. You can have internal cooldowns for each of those modifiers so that you can't perma have extra X amount of damage. With this change, Malice doesn't need a damage modifier bonus as you gain malice stacks, but you could do something a little bit more interesting, like maybe you gain an offensive boon per malice stack gained or something like that. Alright, finally, let's talk about rifle. You can play Deadeye without a rifle. I won't say rifle is integral for playing Deadeye, but I would like rifle to be viable because it's a very underutilized weapon. Engineers have gotten the most use out of it with Core Engie and Hollowsmith, and I've rarely ever seen rifle warriors, especially nowadays. So I just would like to see rifle be a more viable weapon choice. The first overall issue with rifle is very apparent to every Thief player, or at least I hope it is that you have to sacrifice short mobility or a melee set to use it. You can run rifle and short bow, which will still give you that mobility, but using two projectile weapons, as I said many times in previous videos, is not ideal for a Thief because of all the projectile destruction, blocks, reflex, and that's very apparent in World vs. World, where a rifle actually thrives the best, so it's not ideal. You can equip a melee weapon set in addition to rifle so that you have a melee option. If you do that, it kills your mobility because no short bow, or it hits your damage because you have to use like a new rune or a food to give you that mobility, which is not very ideal. You could also spec into acro, which depending on your melee weapon set could prove beneficial for you. I guess you would have to run sword in that respect. And this has all been very apparent to me in World vs. World late. I've messed around a lot with this in World vs. World. Now, let's go into the skills themselves. The rifle skills themselves and talk about this. So the number one rifle skill is called Brutal Aim, Deadly Aim when you're kneeling, and Curse Bullet when you use a stealth attack. Oh, the auto attacks on rifle. You need to have quickness, or you need to be kneeling for reasonable DPS. And I say reasonable DPS because the damage on the auto attacks are fairly low. Vuln stacks help, but like you don't. Yeah, that's. Vuln stacks help with everyone, so it's not really a concrete save for it. The stealth attack Curse Bullet actually feels worse than normal attacks. It feels slower, and I know it removes. It converts boons to conditions, but I would much rather just have a damage increase, personally. Number two on the rifle is Skirmisher Shot, Spotter Shot when you're kneeling. I don't really like using this skill. The only reason I would use this skill is on an opening fight, so I get that swiftness when I'm standing, or I get that fury or vigor when I'm kneeling. This is literally because I don't want to spend my initiative on a skill that might miss versus another skill that has the potential of missing, but it could also hit, which is the third skill I'll talk about a little bit. I would like this skill to be converted to more of an AoE attack. So instead of piercing, I would like this to chain into a cone attack, so it would either be straight up simple cone attack like on the Ranger Shortbow 2 skill, I believe, which is the poison arrow thing, or it would be a shot that you can, when you hit a target, it spreads into cone damage. I think that'll be a lot more useful. Probably benefit better from the simple cone attack, but it's debatable. Number three on rifle is Double Tap 3-round burst when you're kneeling. This is your burst damage. This is your best damage, your bread and butter. You literally just use most of your initiative on this for damage. And ideally you'd be a kneel so you get more damage out. And I honestly have nothing else to say other than that. I think this skill got nerfed before launch, but before PLF launch, but you know, it's still pretty solid skill. Number four on rifle is Death's Retreat and Death's Judgment when you're in kneel state. Death's Retreat is your evasive action on rifle. And I actually really like this skill because, you know, it damages and poison at your starting location. You move back a certain amount of distance. You cleanse one condition. I think it's great. There are two issues with this, and that is one, you can clip onto small elevated pieces of land. So I think they tried fixing this a little bit, but it still happens from time to time. And what I'm talking about is, like, let's say you're someone's closing in on you, you want to use Death's Retreat, and there's like a small piece of elevated land behind you. You hit Death's Retreat, you clip onto that edge, and then the person catches up to you, kills you, even though you hit that button, that Death Retreat twice, and you're little to no initiative, and you're dead. Feels bad. That was one of the issues. The other issue is that I think it needs to be a shadow step, because I think it would actually open up more options, aka you don't need to bring short bow. Now, I think the initiative cost would go up as a result, but I think it'd be worth it, because it would allow you to have you either allow you to bring short bow or rifle, and then you bring a melee set, which is, I think, is the best thing for a thief. For concerning Death's Judgment, I think you only use this when you're near a full malice stacks and you can hit with it. You're absolutely sure you can hit with it, because any player who knows the timing or knows how to dodge projectile heavy big attacks will be able to dodge Death's Judgment. On the inverse side, if a target's not as skilled, you'll be able to melt that target before you'll be able to have a chance to use Death Judgment in the ideal scenario. So yeah, that's kind of the weird spectrum when it comes to Death Judgment. Last skill we're going to talk about is Rifle 5, which is kneel and free action when you're kneeling. Now, this one is a bit controversial because I've seen many arguments for how kneel should work, like there should be an AoE on it, or that when you move, kneel should just stop activating, and there's a lot of things about it, but I think kneel is okay the way it is right now. It requires you to be aware of when you're kneeling and when you're not kneeling, or you have to swap weapons in order to get out of kneel, or you have to actually press the button to get out of kneel. It has a certain layer of difficulty. I'm personally okay with it. Maybe some people aren't, but you know, I guess in that case it's to each their own. But that's pretty much everything I have to say on the Deadeye issues. I do have to say, even with the issues, I do have fun playing Deadeye sometimes, and I just do hope ArenaNet comes up with some changes that'll make Deadeye more viable. Well, that's all for now, guys. Let me know your thoughts on your own issues and solutions for Deadeye in the comments below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, do hit that thumbs up button, and if you want to see more Guild Wars 2 videos from me, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. This has been Age. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!